This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by North Dakota Tourism. Start planning your fall hunt in North Dakota at legendary.com. My guest today is Travis Warren. He's a fellow podcaster and upland bird hunter from Reno, Nevada. He just climbed down from the mountains in search of his latest upland game bird trophy. If I had to give Travis a title, I'd call him a bird hunting athlete. Stick around and you'll understand why. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton is our producer. Today, I'm joined by another Travis Warren. Travis and I hunted chukar together last winter in the mountains of Nevada, and if you've watched our television show this week, you'll see exactly what we went through to find our birds. Spoiler alert, Travis shot the largest chukar that I've ever seen. Travis, welcome to the show. Was that the largest chukar that you've ever bagged?
Oh man, you're gonna make me think. I jokingly call it a dinosaur because it was big. Some days I shoot well, some days I shoot horrible, and the size of that bird, I'm not surprised I hit it.
Yeah, it was a gigantic bird. And that particular day that we hunted together, I don't remember how many miles we put on, man, but it was a lot, and that was the only bird that we brought home with us. What were your expectations going into that hunt, and did we reach those expectations?
Sometimes the chukar gods smile down on you and they'll give you a gimme. They'll give you a little mulligan, and you earn every single bird you put in the bag. I remember, and this was probably my mistake, but I remember when we were driving to the spot, you asked me, you said, so how do you think it's going to work out today? I said, we'll find birds. And I didn't jinx us because we found birds. They'd never let us get close enough to them. And not to mention we had other feral animals out there that were giving us a little havoc, but it was not what I expected. Yeah, I had gone out the week prior because I knew you were coming into town, so I figured I'd have to get a good beat on where the birds were. So I had gone in and found this new spot, and it was promising. So I left there thinking, perfect, I know where I'm going to take them. And yeah, it's just the way it works out. It's public land hunting. It's chukar hunting. There's nothing easy about either of those.
Right. And we were hunting in January, so would you consider that middle of the season or late season? When does the chukar season open in Nevada?
The chukar season opens the second weekend of October and runs to the first weekend of February. So that was pretty much the tail end of the season when you came out. But really, it's some of the best hunting you can do. Generally, you're hunting in the snow, which I know we sort of had a real vacillating temperature range and weather that came through that weekend. But it's the best because it's colder. There's snow, which sometimes really helps you as a hunter track the birds. But also it's really good for your dogs to be able to scent those birds as well.
Mm-hmm. I think, Matt Harding was the other hunter that joined us. Matt and I actually did a podcast, way back in February, way before COVID hit. He was in Minnesota, so we sat down. But I remember talking to Matt before we came out there to film, and he said, yeah, we've got snow. The birds are, doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And right before we got into town to film, the snow melted, and it pretty much kind of changed everything. The birds were extremely unpredictable. They're somewhere on the very tops, somewhere on the very bottom of the mountain. So they weren't really doing their normal routine. But is that something that you kind of, I don't know. I mean, some people enjoy the challenge of it, right? I mean, are you one of those hunters? You have to be if you're going up on top of a mountain in search of a bird, right?
Yeah. Chukar hunting, I think, it spawns a rare breed of individual that does it as a primary focus. It's such a calorie deficit hike hunt. And even with the dogs, I still call it hiking with a hope. I mean, you're out there, and I mean, you're covering these vast tracts of land, and sometimes, I mean, you got a good beat on the birds, and if you're doing your research, you can generally find yourself and put yourself in a position where you're gonna find birds and you're gonna get into them. That just comes with experience and time. But I mean, last year, I mean, I went to spots where I'd seen them before and I didn't see them, and so it's weather's a huge factor in what the birds do and how they behave. In the West, as we've seen this year so far, wildfires can be a big indicator as well as to maybe whether the birds will be there or whether they're not, and they'll push it out. They may push birds out of the area. So it's just a factor of a lot of the environmental issues that you see, or the environmental factors, I suppose, that do play into it. Because yeah, I mean, there's birds on top, there's birds all the way at the very bottom, which was really strange. Because generally with chukar, I mean, if you can figure out a generalized elevation of where they are, you kind of keep that elevation, you kind of work it, and you can find them in that area. But man, it was not kind to us that day, and I felt really bad, and we were mic'd up the whole time. And I swear, I was telling you, I said, man, I think all you're going to hear me do is swearing in my microphone all day long.
We did have to beep out a couple lines in the show, but it's the reality of what we put ourselves through. I actually got a text from our cameraman the other day, and he got an update to his app, and it showed, because he's one of those Tough Mudder runners, and he's
Okay.
all over, and he said, I wonder what we were doing in January last year, question mark, and he showed me a screenshot. There's a huge spike in his elevation and his miles that he put on in January, and it was I laughed a little bit because god dang, we put on, I don't remember how many flights of stairs we went up and down, but it was a lot. It was brutal, but I'll never forget it. I love the hunts that are the hardest. Travis, how long have you been hunting for upland birds?
Well, I mean, I pretty well focus on chukar, and when I got into upland hunting, it was chukar, and has always been chukar. So I've been doing that for 13 years. I dabble here and there, but I mean, really, my primary focus and what gets me out of bed in the morning is chukar hunting.
Gotcha. When we were sitting on the side of the mountain, you told me the reason why you started hunting in the first place. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, hunting in general. Let me see if this is the correct story I gave you. Um,
Well,
yeah, so
it had to do with a certain father-in-law.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. uh, I didn't grow up hunting at all. My dad, before he passed away, he went on one elk hunt that I recall growing up. So hunting was never really a part of our lives at all. And I traveled around as a kid growing up a lot, and ended up settling in Reno on my way to New Zealand. And when I stopped in Reno, within the first year, I met my wife, and she came from a huge hunting family. Her dad would raise chukar and pheasant, had a hunting dog. I mean, it was and still is a big part of what he does and what his life is about. And um, I he's not a man of very many topics to talk about. He loves hunting and fishing, and that is his passion. And in order for me to get in his good graces, I had to take on some of his interests to be able to have something. I just wanted the guy to like me, if I'm just being straight. And so
Yeah.
I figured, what better way than to get involved in what he was doing. And so he introduced me, and actually took me out on an elk hunt and did some big game hunting, and I still wasn't really sure about whether or not, I was really digging it or not. And, I think a lot of it was just generationally too. And he was pretty honest with me and said, you need to find people your own age, and you need to find people who can go at your own pace. Because I would look at the mountain and be like, man, I really want to climb up there. And they were more or less just out there to get out of town and just, just have a little vacation. So we were just on kind of two different levels. And I ended up meeting a buddy of mine who got me into chukar hunting, and then that was kind of all the cards were in. But yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, I got into hunting because I just wanted my father-in-law to like me enough to give me permission to marry his daughter.
Well, you obviously got permission, right? It was a success. Little did you know that fast forward a decade here, and now you have your own hunting podcast. Did you ever envision this journey going this way?
I constantly hear from my wife, I didn't marry my father, but lo and behold, I guess she did. So, you
You
know,
did.
it's
That's fantastic.
it's
I
funny.
love the stories. I love hearing everybody's story, why they got into hunting, how they got into hunting, and they're all different, and everybody can relate in some way because we now all share the same passions. Some of us to different extremes, but we all get there in a different direction or from a different path. So it's cool. I appreciate you sharing that story. What's the name of your podcast right now?
It's called the Upchukar podcast. So it's a little bit of a double entendre, upland, chucker, upchuck, which sometimes you feel like you might want to do if you push it too hard climbing those mountains. So um, I just thought it was funny. My wife initially didn't really think it was very cool, but it's kind of grown on her as well. So she's my quality control person within the podcast. So most stuff
Nice.
gets run past her first. She gives me
How long
enough.
have you been doing that?
2 years now. So we're going into the third season of the podcast. And when I first started, I wasn't sure how much content I could put out there. I thought, my gosh, I mean, maybe after 6 months, I mean, it'd be all dried up. But I find the longer I do it, the more I meet people who share the same addiction that I have, and it really just spans. And I just have met some of the most fantastic and interesting people, and maybe because my scope of the world is kind of narrowed because of chukar hunting, but I just think that chukar hunting attracts the most interesting and eclectic group of people, and it's just always is keeping my interest. I find new, better, greater stories, and I've made just some fantastic friendships through the whole process. So, I mean, I'm I thought it would last 6 months, and here we are, third going into the third season, and it's not slowing down. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, I'll look back on my life someday and I'll think about, what I've done for a career. And two things I continuously stand out to me even right now is the places that I've been able to go and experience, standing on top of a mountain with you, for instance, but also really the people that I've met. And I thought the
Mm-hmm.
same thing too when we started the podcast. I'm like, wow, we produce 13 episodes a year generally for our television show. And I'm like, we got 52 weeks a year. How am I going to fill that with podcasts? But the people that we meet, right, that we're talking to, and now there's listeners that are sending in more, hey, you should interview this person, or hey, how about this, or I've got an idea. And I mean, I have a list that I have a folder that's full of people that I'm going to be talking to in the coming weeks and months on this show, and it just keeps on growing. And it's the passion that we all share, right? So it's something that we enjoy talking about. If I'd call you on the phone when driving to and from work, we could talk for 45 minutes, and it's probably the same conversation that a lot of other hunters would be able to relate to or would be
Yeah.
interested in as well. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to be a better hunter and we want to share the experience so that we can get more people out into the field and keep the passion alive for generations to come, right? You work closely with the Chukar Chasers organization. What are they all about?
Well, it's sort of they're two different things, but one and the same. So, Checker Chasers themselves, they're uh, for-profit apparel company, and that's where it kind of all started from, was an apparel company. But in the last year, a little over a year, they branched off to open Checker Chasers Foundation, which is a nonprofit, and it's really focused and dedicated to really just the conservation of chukar and chukar hunting, and specifically within the youth demographic. So 2 times a year we put on, fully sponsored by us, youth hunts, and we supply the the birds. Every kid gets, and we keep it limited to about 15 to 20 kids and their parents, and we supply them with swag. We help teach the conservation. We partner with Nevada Department of Wildlife, and they come out and they teach hunter safety. shotgun safety, educate them on the birds. The board members help teach the kids things about being out and things to how to be prepared when you're out hunting. We teach kids how to field dress or how to dress and prepare the birds so they can eat them. Really, just a holistic approach of the bird and how to hunt it and how to be a good sportsman, how to be a conservation minded, and then really just the fun part is actually getting out there and teaching them how to safely work with dogs. A lot of them haven't had any experience hunting behind a dog or never seen a pointing dog before. And so that's a lot of fun, is to be able to introduce them to that. So, I mean, we're looking at this from the perspective of, bringing, really preserving the next generation and bringing the next generation along so that we can pass down, really the extreme passion we have for chukar hunting and kind of really everything that it encompasses.
Yeah. Do you actually take them up on the mountain then?
No, so they're controlled hunts. I mean, they're controlled hunts on some preserves that we have here. And so the cool thing is that the first hunt that we do of the year actually coincides with the opening of youth chukar season. So what we try and do is, we bring them out, introduce them, and then hopefully encourage them to go out that continuing weekend and actually go out and hunt wild chukar, which, generally the Bullhead Hunting Club is where we are putting it on. That's out of Paradise Valley, Nevada, which is just north of Winnemucca, which is, right in the epicenter of some great chukar hunting. And so, you can see great chukar hunting from where we're at. So we try and encourage the kids and the families to go out and actually participate in wild chukar hunting. And some of them do, and it's really cool. And to be able to actually introduce the kids have that first positive experience hunting. And then also, we get parents that come in that have never hunted either. And so we're introducing them in a positive way to hunting. And I think that is so key with retention of hunters, is that you got to provide, or you hope that you can produce a positive experience, or at least hope they have a positive experience, their first experience, so they want to learn more and continue. Because, I think that goes across any aspect of life. I mean, if you have a great positive experience doing something, it piques your interest and you want to continue to learn more and do it more. If you have a horrible experience, you might tend to say, I'm good, I might try something else. So, and as it's important to help grow hunter numbers.
Right. I mean, I always, like the Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, they're the habitat organization, right? They plant seeds to grow grass, but I always say, like, our role as hunters is to plant seeds in the lives of other humans as well. And we don't know what that's going to grow into, but we give them the opportunity. They get to experience something, and from there, then they can make their own decision on it. But many times it intrigues them. Kids are, boys and girls, from my experience, they love hunting. They love everything about the animals and being out there and seeing them. And honestly, even, like my little girl, we held a bird the other day and blood dripped out and she wanted to touch the blood. There's just parts of it that she's intrigued by that I don't understand, but I can obviously relate. I did the same thing when I was a kid too, but all I'm saying is just giving them the opportunity to experience it and see where it might take them. The habitat that you guys hunt out there, or for chukar, and other birds of the West, we spend so much time in the Midwest trying to grow grass, right? It's got to be thick cover grass. Habitat work is all about grass. Now, in the mountains, you guys, what is your conservation model out there that really helps benefit the birds?
Well, the conservation aspect of it, really, one of the biggest things is really focusing on, especially like post-wildland fire, is reseeding efforts. So both, the Nevada Chukar Foundation, which is another nonprofit here in Nevada, really works alongside Nevada Department of Wildlife to help with some reseeding efforts, because it's interesting, cheatgrass, which tends to be a bit of an invasive grass out here in the West, is also something that chukar actually use as a food source. But what we want to do is try and maintain a healthy balance of everything. And so when you talk about the conservation aspect of it is really trying to make sure that the grasses are suitable for, or just the habitat and the feed options are um, suitable for the birds and for other wildlife out there. Because I mean, very frequently you see both. You can see chukar and valley or California quail cohabiting space. Mule deer, antelope, things like that, cohabiting space, bighorn sheep, cohabiting space. And so, it's really the symbiotic relationship between the land, big game animals, water, and chukar that we pursue.
Hmm. Um, Describe the bird. I know we talk about how difficult it is to hunt, but describe the bird, their habits, where they live throughout the season, things like that, and then we'll get into actually hunting for them. But where do those birds live, like right now, this time of the year?
So this time of the year, you're going to probably find them closer to water sources. I mean, it's been pretty hot, and really early season during that period of probably like June to really when the rains and the weather start moving in, you're going to find them close around water sources. Especially in the desert, the high desert, everything life is centered around water, and so whether it be free water or whether it be man-made sources of water catchments like guzzlers, you're going to tend to find them in those areas. As the water moves in, as rain starts to happen or snow melt starts to occur, they'll move off of those water sources, and you'll start finding them in places that tend to give them some good, advantageous opportunities to see predators coming in, to be able to just see the terrain around them, and then the angles to fly. As you saw, climbing up and down those mountains, their escape is either to run uphill, which will kill you if you try and chase them, or flying downhill. And it's actually sometimes easier to get them to try and flush uphill. There's strategies involved with trying to hunt them and get them to flush a certain direction, but they're going to be in an area where they can easily take off and they can gain momentum, and then they can fly and they can escape. I mean, that's really their main way of defending against attacks, is flying away or running like the Dickens. And just they're I think people ask me all the time, and I've been asked on podcasts before. We've heard the saying that for the first time hunt is for fun, the rest is for revenge. But I never really ever felt that way, and even now, I mean, more so now than ever, it's respect for the bird. I mean, they're tough birds, and I think equally you have to be a tough person to be out there hunting them. It's not for the. I mean, I don't mean to be over dramatic, but it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you've seen it. You've been out there. You've climbed,
Yep.
and you have to really want to be out there. And I think that when you realize that you love being out there as much as you love hunting them, then I think it all starts to come together. But not to kind of get too far off topic and try to stay on the question you asked. They're going to be in elevations. They're going to be on steep cliffs, hillsides. They're going to be in rim rock, or I guess for those who don't know what rim rock is, generally what you'll see on the side of western mountain slopes is you'll see rock, which rims the sides or the slopes of the mountains, whether it be up on the peaks or below, and that provides shelter and protection from them, from avian predators, coyotes, mountain lions, whatever's out there that could be a threat to them. Being in the rocks or being close to the rocks provides some degree of shelter and cover. And then not only does it provide shelter and cover from that, but also from the elements as well. I mean, they don't want to stand out there and get snowed on or rained on, so they got to be able to tuck away and get out of the rain and shelter their way. And so rim rock, those open cheatgrass hillsides, and anywhere near water sources. And if you can find a water source at the bottom of a really steep slope that is also has rim rock in it, you're probably going to find some birds.
Hmm. Um, at the start of the show, I said that your title should be bird hunting athlete because you to do this successfully, I mean, over and over. I mean, you hunt them all year long. You put your body through the ultimate test to reach these birds. Is there anything that you do prior to season to get into hunting shape? I mean, is there a workout regimen that you're constantly using?
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes without question. But I mean, I would say that to answer the first portion, when you talk to chukar hunters and when I talk to chukar hunters and interview them, a lot of them come from an athletic background. And I think that's the one common factor that I see across the board with chukar hunters, whether they were or currently still are endurance athletes, whether it be ultra marathons, trail running, cycling, high level collegiate athletes. You find that those tend to be the people, and I think it's that ultra competitive mindset, and it's really pushing yourself to do hard things because it really isn't satisfying unless it's hard, unless you're breaking a sweat, unless you feel like your heart's beating out of your chest. So because that's the mentality of the people that tend to find themselves, or that you tend to find as check runners, health and fitness and being in shape is just a lifestyle. It's not something it's not something you pick up 6 months prior to. I mean, it's a constant lifestyle. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm 6'2", and in last season when I met you, I was 220 pounds, which is probably the most I'd ever weighed. And I can still climb those mountains well, but I could feel it as opposed to maybe being 210 pounds. So in January, I went on actually it was February, I went on a real strict eating routine and dropped 20 pounds to try and get myself back to, that real fighting shape. And it makes such a huge difference. It makes such a huge difference to be able to be strong and be light and, just be able to cover that distance. So, for me, I do. And it probably sounds boring as hell to most people, but, I track my calories. I really focus on, my protein intake, and I know my protein's number one is what I take in. I take in about 180 to 200 grams of protein per day. So, I track my calories really diligently. And, even though wasn't drinking during that period of time, you can't be a total miserable bastard. So I just, put drinking back in my diet. So, but you gotta balance life out a little bit. But,
Right.
just, you feel better. You feel better just throughout the year. And, I feel better, especially going into bird season. Um, you're ready to go. And, you don't want to spend the first month trying to knock the rest off and, get your lungs back into shape. So, a lot of hiking this year, Matt and I did. He got a puppy this year. So, we spent time hiking up in elevations of 9,000 feet. And we just got back from a Himalayan snowcock hunt. So, I mean, that, if nothing more, that knocked the rest off of us. And so, I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's not
Yep.
something, and I say it at the end of my podcast, I say, make sure you do something this week to help keep each other strong. And people laugh at it sometimes, but to be honest with you, it's kind of a mantra. If you remember that, if I remember that, it reminds me, I gotta be diligent with the food I eat, how I intake, what I'm doing to stay physically active. I started incorporating yoga into what I do throughout the week, and really just flexibility for yoga because you're stepping high, you're stepping up, you're never on flat ground. So, you really have to focus on core strength because your shots are never going to be flat footed. They're always going to
Hmm.
be off center. So, I mean, you got to give yourself the best advantage that you can possibly get because you're still going to be at a disadvantage hunting birds. Um,
Yep.
so, and, if you feel that you're nearing having a cardiac arrest, and the bird's flushing, and you can't shoot, it's sort of a bummer. You miss those opportunities, and so being in shape and being healthy is just part of the lifestyle. I think of a checker hunter. I just think it's just synonymous.
Absolutely. I mean, without it, you wouldn't be able to enjoy just those experiences. And I can speak from my own times hunting chucker. I've hunted them in Idaho and Nevada and Wyoming. There, you watch a dog go on point from on top of a mountain. Uh, it's just it. I can't really describe it. You have to experience it, right? And
Mhm.
so um, just the whole adventure itself. You mentioned just a moment ago that you just climbed down from the mountain on a Himalayan snowcock hunt. I want to talk to you about that, but first I have to give a quick message update from our partners in North Dakota. They want to remind you that the bird numbers in North Dakota are on the rise. Their annual roadside counts for this year are now in, and here are the stats. Pheasants observed per 100 miles are up 38%, sharptails are up 54%, and Hungarian partridge are up 45%. And with an estimated 4 million breeding ducks, up 18% this year, North Dakota's central region is prime habitat for both hunting waterfowl and upland birds. Plus, North Dakota has more than 700,000 acres of private land open to public walk-in hunting. For the latest plots guide, visit the North Dakota Game and Fish Department or legendary.com. Travis, so you just returned from a Himalayan snowcock hunt. Is that kind of like the, uh, I mean, I know Matt has a bucket list goal, Matt Harding, to take every upland bird in North America. Is Himalayan snowcock on the top of that list?
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the person you talk to, I suppose. I
I
mean,
suppose so for you, is the Himalayan snowcock on the top of your list as far as, like some of those, like a pheasant, walk through grass on flat ground and watch your dog hunt and the birds get up. And there's nothing, I mean, that's a great hunt. But you have to reach elevations of, it's 10,000 feet or higher, right? Just to get into the area that those Himalayan snowcock live. I mean, that in itself makes the experience so much more difficult. That's, to me, it would seem like it would be the most challenging of all the birds.
yeah. I mean, I would definitely say that it's extremely challenging. It's a high elevation bird. I mean, if anybody's ever hunted ptarmigan and they've had to hike in for ptarmigan, I mean, it's the same sort of aspect as that. I mean, there's no way you're not hunting out of a truck. I mean, you could. I mean, in some places you could hunt out of a vehicle, and I got a buddy who does it. But I mean, the guy's an absolute machine, and he just eats the mountain up in a day. Um, but I mean, for most people, you have to backpack in. So you're climbing up, and you're climbing up and you're backpacking and you're sleeping on ridges and, you're just exposed to the elements. And I think for me, it's the romantic aspect of doing it that way as well. I just love sleeping in a sleeping bag. I mean, I like it. Maybe it's the discomfort. It makes you sort of feel a little bit more alive. Makes you feel like you're living a little bit more. And this is just me speaking for me. Um, you know, in a lot of ways, I like to do these hard things that um, they do give me an appreciation for life that I don't get in other aspects. Um, and we talked about it a little bit when you were here, but
Mhm.
I'm a childhood cancer survivor. And so, for me, getting a second chance in life, you want to make sure you don't waste it. And for me, I mean, I'm not making generalities with anybody else, but for me, and the way that my story speaks to me is that I want to be able to appreciate to do these things. That there's other people who never got that chance, or who don't have that chance now because of other physical ailments. And so, for me, it's a way to not only honor the journey that I've gone through, but to make sure that I don't feel like I've wasted anything, like I've wasted this opportunity, and I've wasted my second chance of health. And it's interesting too because through all the chemo and radiation I did, I actually discovered that I have underdeveloped lungs. So the mere fact I can actually go out and do that stuff and get up into those elevations and climb high and climb hard and pack in stuff, and I mean, to me, it gives me a real appreciation for life that, and really in a perspective as well for the appreciation, because there was a chance I could have never done it ever, you know? And
Right.
so doing hard things and being able to get out there and just find, I mean, really, there's just a sense of tranquility being up there in those mountains, and waking up and watching the sunrise from across these vast landscapes, and having a cup of coffee at 10,000 feet, and just being woken by, or sitting there and listening to these calls of these Himalayan snowcock or chukar or whatever. It's just it is something that you have to experience. It's hard to explain, but you do have an appreciation for life that, for me, I feel like I wouldn't get if I didn't do it.
Did you get a bird this year?
No, we didn't. We didn't get a bird this year, but I'm actually trying to go back next weekend. Um, I've got a plan, and super great. My wife is like the coolest in the world, and we always joke around, all my friends, and the ways and strays that come through my house during bird hunting season. And you know, she's been dubbed the cool wife, and so she lets me do what I feel when I get a hair up my ass. She's like, yeah. I mean, I remember when we got back from this last hunt, and there were some logistical issues that kind of shortened our trip there. But I mean, I remember getting home.
Wasn't it water?
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty dry out here this year, and where we ended up doing, so we set out on a goal. We've gotten birds 2 years in a row, and so this year we wanted to try to see more country, to see more terrain, and broaden our perspective of the bird and the habitat and where they live. So we decided it would be, in our best interest in terms of adventure, to try and harvest a bird in every single unit. So there's 3 available units within the state of Nevada that you can legally hunt and harvest a bird in. And really, pretty much that's the only place they live. So that was our goal for this year. So we actually kind of went in quite blind, not quite sure. When you look at the map, you can see that there's water sources. When we got up there, the water sources were dried up. There was no water up there. So yeah, so we ended up packing in water, but when you're going up and down and climbing around, and and then you also include incorporating water for cooking, 3 liters of water isn't going to last you very long, and that's just the way it is. And we we didn't really realize how much of an issue it was going to be, but it was. And I mean, I don't begrudge it or regret any of it. It was fun. We still learned so much. I mean, we were so close. When we were up there the first morning, we heard the birds, we saw them, and they were walking along a slope below us, about 200 yards of scree below us. So it's like, imagine trying to walk quietly on a whole hill of dinner plates. It's just, you're sliding. It's the clinking sound of the rocks clinking together as you step on them. It's really tough. So we ended up dropping our bags on the ridge and doing a big circle loop around this peak and getting in, because we hoped that we could cut them off. And they were feeding towards this slope, or towards this opposing ridge. And so we thought, well, we'll just get around here. But from where we dropped our bags to the circuitous route that we took, and then we hid behind some trees waiting for them to come towards us, was about 150 yards or so. I mean, just a straight line, 150 yards. And we heard the birds, we're watching them. They're within 100, 110 yards of us. And they, instead of coming straight at us and within a little bit closer, they make a hard right turn and they walk right up to where we dumped our bags. And they disappeared. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. How? Oh my, I mean, it was just, it was just one of those things where you can do your best to try and predict what a wild animal will do, but they're going to do whatever they're going to do.
How many were there?
There was 3. Damn. Yeah. So where we were hunting, we knew there was lower bird numbers. So we know that just finding them was going to be harder. But we were actually very fortunate. We got lucky. We found the birds. We found where they wanted to hang out. We were trying to figure out where they were watering, because there was just no water that we could see, even at the bottom of the mountain. but we can never figure out where they're wandering. But I mean, a lot of birds are quite resourceful. Even chukar. I mean, if it gets really bad, they'll pull up wild onions and they'll eat wild onions, wild garlic, and things like that. I mean, so they're very resourceful in how they can get their water and or how at least how they get moisture. And so the only thing we could think of is they were getting it off of the out of the plants they were eating, out of the little flowers and stuff like that they were eating. And then over the course of the next afternoon or that afternoon, and then the next morning, we ended up getting close a couple more times. But man, they're hard birds to hunt. They're very, very skittish. They're massive birds. I mean, they're massive birds, huge, and but they're very wary, and they're actually pretty smart birds in terms of keeping themselves out and in locations where you just can't get to them. And they live in very, very high, steep country. And there's places where, I have been and I wonder to myself, like, I got 2 kids at home and a wife. What the hell am I doing hanging, going down this snowshoe? I mean, what the hell am I doing here? But you get caught up in the moment, and they just live in some they can live in some pretty scary terrain. But it's just such a reward to hunt them, because you just get blessed to be in their country and to be up there with them. And the greatest thing, the coolest thing about them is the call that they make is just so unique. If you've never heard one before, I think at least that you would know it when you heard it.
Can you mimic it?
I'm not even going to try because I'm going to embarrass myself. But,
come on, one shot.
I'll just best describe it as it sounds it's kind of a mixture between an elk, a bugle, and what else? It's kind of a quasi elk bugle. They're just loud. They're and then you'll hear them feeding, and they have this kind of like a little bit like a large quail. You can hear them. They have this feeding noise, and which we were trying to figure out. I mean, I think what they do is they make that noise when it's starting to get to the point where they need to kind of go to roost or get up in the cliffs, which is where they go for protection.
Mm-hmm.
So they start kind of, whoever's the sort of lead of that group starts pushing them, and they make that sound, and they just kind of push them up. And but I mean, man, it's the coolest thing. And when you're in these granite bowls up at 9,000-10,000 feet, and they just start cracking off with their calls and their noise. I mean, it's a symphony up there. It's really, really something special. And it's definitely my second favorite bird to hunt. I mean, I love hunting chukar and Himalayan snowcock, kind of for 2 different reasons. Because there's 2 different styles. I mean, generally with snowcock, you're not bringing a dog, although you can. I mean, there's people who do, but generally you're not. And so it's very much like having a big game hunt. You're literally right up there with mountain goats. So it's just a different style of hunting. Chukar hunting is really, it's about, getting in there with the dogs and pointing dogs from across, these slopes, and you can see your dog on point from 500-600 yards off, and it's just something magical about that.
Right. Well, it sounds like I need to convince one of our cameramen to join me for a backpacking trip up into. Are you hunting those snowcock? Are they in the Ruby Mountains, or are there other ranges as well?
No, it's the only place outside of the actual Himalayan mountains or East Asia that they actually exist. So they were introduced in the 60s in Nevada, and they're a healthy population. And so they span the length of the Ruby Mountains, which is, area 101 through 103. And they're the only place outside of the Himalayan mountains out there, and that they exist. So it's not hard to figure out where they are. It's just hard to get to them.
Right. Right. Well, do you know, does the state have an estimate on how many there are?
No, there's no count. So sometimes, obviously when they go and they do mountain goat studies, excuse me, they'll get a good indication. They can see them in there, but they don't. I mean, there's estimates that range from 700 to, over 1,000, but I don't, from my understanding, they don't have it. They don't actually know how many birds there are because there's no formal studies that are done. They do rely on hunter numbers, hunter return cards, because with Himalayan snowcock, it's free to hunt them, but you do have to obtain a permit. So you just go in, because now with NDOW, you can purchase your license online and you purchase your Himalayan snowcock hunting permit, which that's one of the ways that they actually track how many people are hunting them, what the pressure looks like, and then obviously based on hunter surveys, you know, kind of get an idea at least of what gets taken, how many are harvested, um, and then I guess they can take a good guesstimate.
Hmm. Is the limit one?
No, limit's two.
Two for the year, right?
That's a great question. Most people don't do it more than once. So, but it's two in possession. So,
Got it. Got it. So on that same topic now, does the state of Nevada have any information on chucker numbers, or give an idea of, hey, we could have a ban or chucker season, or numbers are down? Do they have estimates?
yeah. So every year they do a chucker forecast, and they just completed and released. Was it last week or the week prior? They just released their chucker forecast, and it really looks great. And I think I think that's the silver lining to 2020 is that across the nation, it sounds like the bird numbers are really, really strong this year. So, um, it's just it's kind of nice to have something to look forward to this year. There's really nothing else to look forward to this year other than the end of it, other
Right.
than 2021. Um, but it looks to be a really, really good season in terms of chucker numbers. And they had to make a slight variation in terms of how they collect data. They used to fly helicopter surveys that were funded by the Nevada Chucker Foundation. But a few years back, tragically, there was a helicopter crash, and so they stopped doing that over safety concerns and the rest of the stuff. And now what they do is they either, my understanding is either walk or they drive to certain areas or canyons, and they listen and they will observe and look and see uh, what they can see, and then they can kind of base it off of that. Um,
I would
yeah,
have to imagine, sorry, don't mean to cut you off there, but I would have to imagine that would be very difficult to get accurate numbers if you're going to just park in a canyon. I mean, wind direction, weather, there's so many factors that can contribute to their numbers being one direction or the other from year to year, right?
yeah. Obviously, last year when they did the new style of forecast, there was one area that's really, really prolific as a great checker hunting spot, mountain range, and they recorded no birds, which is, I mean, it's obviously that wasn't the case. But yeah, it's all time sensitive. So you have to be there at the right time. They're coming down to water, and heck, they could have been at water, but maybe a bobcat came down to water and it scared them all off. So you arrive there 5 minutes after that happens, you don't see anything, or you don't hear anything because it's scattered off. And so there's some variations. Really, they do it as a courtesy for hunters. They don't. And it's nice. And some people kind of like, some people pan it and say, you can't rely on it. But to be honest with you, it's still something that gets everybody excited. I think it's fantastic that they do it because I think it's really helpful. And if you're a new hunter, or if you're somebody who, like me, likes to go to new spots every year and find new spots, and because they're really, I think, as a chucker hunter too, it's the adventure of it. It's getting out, it's seeing the country, seeing the state you live in. It's actually going to other states that have chucker and seeing the country that you live in and experiencing it in different forms and in different ways throughout the season. And so, by putting out this checker forecast and talking about, obscure mountain ranges that maybe is a place that you never even thought to go, or you kind of like, maybe not this year, but the bird numbers look a little bit better this year. It spurs that sense of exploration and adventure. And you end up going out there and seeing things and probably putting another, bird spot in your Onyx, in your Onyx app. So you've got that spot now. And so I think it's great. I know I'm actually going to have Sean Espinoza from Endow on my podcast here in the coming week or so to discuss it, to talk about it. Because, like I said, some people might kind of, but I think for the vast majority of us, it's still exciting to see. We'd love to see it. We appreciate Endow making the effort to do that, because I think it's really helpful, not only for seasoned chukar hunters, but for new chukar hunters as well. And I've just had a conversation with two in the last day, who want to get into chukar hunting. And so, as a newbie, as somebody who was new to it at one point as well, I was so hungry and still am for information. So anywhere that would help me learn more about the bird, learn more about how to hunt them, where to go, is important. And I mean, heck, you can't really, as a bird hunter, you're not always very open with where to, sending, to give away your spots. So having something like that as a resource for somebody who is new, to be able to look at and say, okay, I don't have to do I don't have to make the faux pas of asking somebody for a spot. I can go and look at the forecast and say, oh, okay, mountain range. What am I looking for? Okay, I'm looking for water. Where is there water? Where is there steep hillsides with brim rock? Where, I say it all the time on my podcast. Water is such a huge thing. And so if you see, like Onyx is a great example of how to find spots. And I find spots every year doing it this way. I look for a spot where there's either water, whether it be a free water source like a creek or a stream, or there's a guzzler. And if there's a dead end road that drives into a canyon and doesn't go anywhere else, that's probably there for a reason. Somebody has driven up there or drives up there to go scout for birds or something, or hunt for birds. So it's probably a good indication. That's probably a good spot. If you don't know where to go, is to look on a map, look for water sources, and look for a road that dead ends at the bottom of a mountain or in a canyon, and you might try that out. And you're probably going to find birds.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I was going to ask you if you had any for a first-time hunter, because I assume we're going to have quite a few this year that are looking to explore. So that is one piece of advice. I think the other that I've personally learned is that when you think you've gone far enough and you should turn around, no, just keep going a little bit further, right? Just keep walking. I know you said it, Matt said it, everyone else said I've chukar hunted. No, we just got to keep going. You just have to keep going. Are there, one of the things that I think being a Midwesterner like I am, and people that are listening to this show that live even further east, they can't grasp the amount of land that is available for public hunting out there. Do you know what the numbers are just in your own state in Nevada? How many acres of public land are available?
Oh my God. Acres in terms of no, but it's over 80%
Of the
public
state.
land. 70 or 80% public land. Yeah.
It's just it's an insane amount. So the reality is the opportunities are available. I mean, obviously,
87%.
numbers
87%.
are,
Yeah.
what's
Sorry.
that?
If I remember correctly, it's 87% public land in Nevada.
Millions and millions of acres. I mean, the experience in itself, I will say, is something, that is worth traveling for. I get it. If you're in the Midwest, that's, maybe a 15-hour drive, maybe it's further. But if you have the ability this year to try something new, put that on your list, chukar hunting. And like you said, it goes to the first week of February. Most of the Midwest hunting seasons are already closed. As far as a pointing breed, all pointers are going to have that capability to go chukar hunting, right? I mean, is there any training that you would recommend different, Travis, for a dog, or is it
I'm going to
just
tell you right now. So you don't even have to have a pointing breed. You don't even have to have a flushing breed. You don't even have to have a dog. You can. I did it for many, many years by myself, just hiking. That's why I call it a hike with a hope, because I hiked. I didn't have a dog. I just went and hiked, and that's how I found birds. And that's how I learned how to hunt it in a different way. I wasn't reliant. I'm still not reliant on my dogs. I still read the country. I still read the terrain. I still look for signs. I'm looking for poop. I'm looking for the rimrock, the water. I'm reading the terrain as much as I'm allowing my dog to search for birds because, as you know, depending on how the wind's blowing, you may end up running across fresh sign and your dog went the other way,
Hmm.
or they're not searching the right side of the mountain, but you see or you hear them on the other side. So I've gotten really good at, trying to pick up on the physical cues of, where the birds are. Because my dog's not always going to hear the birds calling, but when your dog is 100, 200 yards in front of you hunting,
Hmm.
it's really silent out there. And so you can actually hear birds maybe one canyon over that your dog can't hear. So you start to move your dog and direct your dog over there. So, I mean, those are sort of things that even if you don't have a dog, it doesn't even matter. But I'll tell you this, I know a guy who hunts with a husky and does very well.
Cool.
So you could hunt with you could hunt, if your dog's not gun shy, just take your dog out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, it's, I don't know. I mean, some people may think, but I, at the end of the day, that's the great thing about chukar hunting is that, and I think it's probably the great thing about every probably hunting in general, is that you don't have to have a dog. It
Hmm.
really is cool. And I mean, there is something magical about watching a dog on point, shooting a bird over a point and having your dog retrieve it. I mean, trust me, it's absolutely a symphony when it goes all well. But you don't have to. And I have a friend that hunts with a border collie. I mean, he just, you work within the resources that you have. And I think that's the other great thing about chukar hunting too is that, and I say it a lot on my podcast, when you get to the point you're like yourself, me, a lot of the other people we know, you really start geeking out on gear. You really start, you're like, oh man, I really want to get that. Yeah, I just want to get it. It's not a need. You don't need it. I mean, you can hunt if you can borrow a shotgun. The only
Hmm.
thing you have to buy is your license. You
Oh
buy your
no,
license.
I would
You
say
get.
a good pair of boots. That's the most
I've
important thing.
I've hunted them in tennis shoes. I mean,
I
it
suppose.
it would increase your enjoyment having a nice pair of boots, but you don't have to. I mean, you can. I mean, it's you can go to Walmart and buy a $50 pair of boots. It doesn't. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing you really have to do is buy a license. You can borrow a
Yeah.
shotgun. If that
Yeah.
person is willing to let you borrow a shotgun, you could probably borrow some shells, or they can give them to you, or you just go pick up a pair, some $5 shells. And I think that that's one of the things that I have to be very cognizant of, and I think probably you do too, is that when people see us do it, and when we talk about it, we have to be very aware of the fact that as much as we've done this for so long and we love to talk about gear and all the cool gear that's out there, because trust me, there's some rad stuff out there, especially this year.
Hmm.
I think new people coming into it might be a barrier for them because they realize, oh my gosh, I don't have $400 pair of boots, I don't have a $200 $300 vest to wear. um, Shit, maybe I'll wait till next year. And I mean, really the case is that if you have a desire to do it, you have access and you can legally have access to a shotgun and you buy your license, you can go out and do it. I used to carry a backpack with me. I would wear a regular orange, vest that, probably every 10-year-old kid has. And I would carry a JanSport backpack, and that's how I would do it. And I did that for a long time until I started, buying new stuff. I mean, I still carry the same. I still have the same 870 Remington 870 I got given to me by my father-in-law. I still use that to this day. That's actually my primary Himalayan snowcock gun. Um,
Oh,
I mean,
sweet.
I mean, yeah, I have expensive stuff now, but I only have expensive stuff because I've been doing it a long time. And
Yep.
so
And
if you're new to
yeah,
it,
and you're spot on when you say you don't need all that stuff. I mean, it's a good reminder too, because like you, I was in that same exact position one time. And you just, as you get into any hobby in life, I think you realize that certain products are made in a way to really help you in our case, hunting. And there are boots that are more comfortable. The bottom, the soles are better suited for rock hiking. I will tell you, there's a certain very popular brand of upland boot that I would never take on a mountain hike. You want boots that are made for hiking. If you're going to buy a pair of boots, break them in before you even think about climbing mountains, because the hike up is one thing. My goodness, the hike down probably is the most challenging, which doesn't make sense to most people. But until you're out there and you realize how your legs have to twist and turn to hike down a mountain, yeah, it's a lot different. I'll ask one more question, then we're going to wrap this up. If you could give somebody one piece of advice on where to go, or like maybe not necessarily one piece of advice, but somebody who's never chuck or hunted, they realize Nevada, 87% of the state is open to public hunting. Where should they aim for? What part of the state would you recommend? I know there's chucker in a lot of different regions, but is there one particular part that is worth a drive?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's where are you starting from? Where's your beginning destination? Because if you're coming from a West Coast state, so you're coming from California, you're coming from Oregon or Washington or whatever, excuse me, then, the West Coast of Nevada is great. The west side of Nevada is perfect for chukar hunting. And I mean, that's where I live. And I will drop my kids off at school. I'll go hunt for 4 hours and come back and pick them up in time to pick them up from school. So, you can hunt the west side of Nevada. Or, if you're coming from Utah, Idaho, Colorado, whatever, you can hunt the east side. I mean, that's the great thing about chukar in Nevada is that they're everywhere. They are across the entirety of the state. And so it's not like you have to go to one specific geographical location just to find them. They're all over the state. They're down in Vegas. They're over on the east side, the full length of it. They're on the west side. They're down the middle. I mean, if you drove the I-80 corridor from Reno to, Ely, you would literally end up, you could hunt north or south of that freeway and you would get into birds. They're everywhere. I mean, chukar are all over the state. And so
And they're so easy to hunt. You just pull over and you just climb up on top of that little hill, and there they are. Nothing to it.
Somebody told me a really, really funny tactic. It's like shot gobbling for turkeys. And they said, if you go into a canyon and you honk your horn, sometimes you can get the birds to call back. And so you can just sit in the bottom of it, honk your horn, and listen, and you might hear some birds. And so that's a good indication, good way to even to determine if there's any birds in there.
Have you tried it?
I have not tried it. No, I have not tried it. But when I mentioned it, when the person mentioned it on the show, I just laughed. And actually, a buddy of mine actually texted me and goes, "Quit giving away my tactics." And so apparently it's not just alone. Apparently it's not just with one person, but I just thought, and I commented, I said, it's going to be hilarious when I'm driving to a chukar spot and I hear trucks honking in canyons as I drive by this coming season. I said, if that happens, I'm going to laugh my ass off.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, there's another tip right there. I appreciate you spilling the beans on that and sharing your story as well. And obviously, the episode is out this week. It's airing right now on the Outdoor Channel, The Flush. Catch it Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you can watch the show Friday or Saturday, and we hope you do. And we did our best to just show the reality of it. It is not an easy hunt. It is extremely rewarding. We found birds, a blizzard knocked us over, but we hunted through it up on the top of the mountains. Matt took us to a lake up in the mountains, and we chased some monster trout as well. It was one of those hunts that, I don't like to always say bucket list hunt. A lot of people say that, but this one really is. And just being a bird hunter from the Midwest, going up into the mountains, there's something special about that. So, Travis, I appreciate you taking the time today. I hope you and Matt have a fantastic hunting season this year. Stay safe, and I just appreciate all of your knowledge.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the time, and good luck to everyone this season.
All right. Thank you. And also thank you to North Dakota Tourism for helping us to make this show possible. To bag your limit this fall in North Dakota, visit legendary.com. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast.